Halo has been one of my favorite IPs for most of my adult life. While most people can boast of countless hours in multiplayer, I have similar numbers in the campaigns. Understand my bias when I say this. Even with the changes to the levels, combat encounters, and weapons, this may be the most complete way to experience this legendary campaign today. This is Kay Asante from the Gaming Circle, and this is my review of Halo Campaign Evolved. Let me start by thanking Xbox and Halo Studios for providing the code for this review. Now for this one, I want to separate nostalgia from execution. We're going to look at why this remake exists, how the changes to the Sandbox affect the feel of Halo Combat Evolved, whether the new prequel missions actually belong, how the new additions affect replayability, and finally, whether the absence of multiplayer PvP hurts the package. So let's talk about why this exists. For years, we've played remasters and updates that were essentially new paint on old geometry. But Halo Campaign Evolved is different. It's built from the ground up with Unreal Engine 5, and it definitely shows. It's not trying to replicate the 2001 experience. It's trying to replicate your memory of it. When you boot this up, the first thing that hits you isn't the fidelity, it's the scale. You finally see the ring in the way your brain imagined it when you were a kid. The lighting isn't just better, it's purposeful. It guides you, hides enemies, and tells a story of a silent alien construct that's been waiting for eons. For that matter, the whole story feels faithfully recreated, but also with small twists. It feels like they weren't just trying to recreate it faithfully, but instead put their own stamp on the source material by lightly reinterpreting what's on the page. From the addition of the new missions, to the world building through new cutscenes and additional story elements, and even the full-on buddy cop banter between Master Chief and Sergeant Johnson, this game feels like Halo Studios really set out to make the campaign theirs rather than simply acting as stewards of an existing IP. And while the source material is largely unmodified, all the additional inclusions go a long way towards justifying its existence alongside both Combat Evolved and the Anniversary Edition.
The Covenant believe that what they called the Silent Cartographer is somewhere under this island. The Cartographer is a map room that will lead us to Halo's control center.
Okay, let's dive into the gameplay. This is where the purists usually get nervous. We have a sprint mechanic, but it can be toggled on and off in settings. I never really understood the consternation about sprint. The original game worked well without it, but I welcomed its inclusion in the newer games, and I welcome it here. Sprint gives the game a sense of urgency it hasn't had before, and I for one think it's great. I'm sure we'll hear the community's thoughts on it, but I think it's another welcome inclusion, especially because it can be turned off if you prefer. The addition of the new weapons, specifically the battle rifle, changes the cadence of encounters for me. In the original, you were playing a game of close quarters resource management. Now, with the precision of the BR, the game leans a little more tactical. You can engage elites from distance, you can manage shields from behind cover. The sandbox isn't broken, it's expanded. They've also included gameplay elements from other Halo games, including an expanded roster of vehicles to hijack and drive, alongside suit augments like shields and temporary invisibility. This was my main reason for excitement when the remake was initially announced. From the trailers, it looked like Halo Studios was hinting at the future of the franchise with new gameplay and story elements. Having now played those missions, I have to say, in my opinion, they really knocked it out of the park. Since they are prequel missions, I opted to play them first, which in hindsight was the right call. It sets Master Chief and Sergeant Johnson on a mission to infiltrate a Covenant ship and steal some critical plans. What plays out across 3 missions, each with 4 large sections, is a mix of dense combat encounters, new story cutscenes, interesting locations, and some real surprises. The environmental design here feels consistent with later levels, meaning the studio didn't just make more levels, they crafted them to fit existing architecture. They feel like a lost chapter you finally got to read. And there's more dialogue between the Chief and Johnson than I've heard from the Master Chief in many of his games. After the umpteenth one-liner, Johnson even quips that the Chief is the almost silent type.
Seem confident.
We keep quiet and play our cards right, we'll be in, out, and back by dinner.
You're always hungry.
Damn right I am.
Any way to speed this up?
Until we find a way to cram an AI into that suit of yours, it's the best option we got. And done. You ready?
Always.
If there are going to be some dissenting opinions, I suspect this is where they will come from. It seems Halo Studios has decided to lean into the 80s hero action tropes even more than usual. Sergeant Johnson is always cheesing, even in danger, and sometimes he even breaks the fourth wall. And Master Chief seems to have transitioned from a stoic persona into a pretty great wingman for Johnson. It all worked on me, but I can see some people thinking it goes a bit overboard. Ultimately, if I'm right, this is Halo Studios showing us a glimpse of where they are headed with the Halo franchise, and for me, that means exciting times ahead.
Look, cover me.
Before we move on, I need to mention the introduction of the Flood and how it is handled. I expected to see some modernization here, but what we got is a whole different game within Halo. The introduction and its gameplay changes turns Campaign Evolved into a straight-up horror game. Towards the end of the level, I found myself running for dear life as the Covenant and Flood battled all around me. If you've played the original game, you know the sequence I'm talking about. And if you haven't, you're in for a treat. This section especially shows Halo Studios really pulling from your mind's eye and bringing that to reality. Okay, let's talk about campaign remakes and 4-player co-op. The original was a solitary, lonely experience. Bringing in 3 other players changes the dynamic, but it also creates a new kind of fun. The game has also reworked the AI encounters to keep you on your toes, even on normal difficulty, and it only ramps up from there. I would recommend moving to Heroic if you plan to play co-op and want a good fun challenge. The remix mode requires that you find at least 3 skulls in the game before it unlocks. That shouldn't be too difficult, as there are 42 skulls in the game. 3 skulls per mission are hidden in the campaign missions, and there are 9 skulls in the 3 prequel missions. Once remix mode is unlocked, you're able to replay missions with randomized enemies, weapons, and more. Randomized skulls is where the game really finds its legs for the long haul. I've been running with Black Eye and Mythic Skulls enabled. Look those up. It turns the standard encounters into a puzzle. It's not about winning, it's about surviving the chaos you've created for yourself. On my rig, an Intel 13th Gen i9 CPU paired with 64 gigs of RAM and an NVIDIA GTX 4090 GPU, the performance, as you'd expect, is smooth as butter. I did notice that the frame generation setting was broken. The issue was most visible in cutscenes. When frame generation is enabled, subjects moving on the screen leave trails. My system had adequate overhead, so that setting wasn't needed. While it wasn't an issue for me, and I would imagine that it will be fixed either at or shortly after launch, it is worth mentioning. But on my system, setting it to Ultra gave me great visuals without having to compromise on frames. What was surprising is how well it performed on my Asus Xbox Ally X. On the handheld, it performed remarkably well. Even when there were many enemies on screen and the frame rate noticeably dropped, the VRR screen kicked in and kept gameplay very smooth. When it officially releases, it has been announced that it will support Xbox Play Anywhere. But during the review period, the code provided me didn't give me access to play the game on my Series X or S console. I look forward to trying it on both post-launch. Let's take some time and talk about the transition to Unreal Engine 5. If you've heard me speak on UE in the past, you know that I'm not exactly known as the biggest fan of the gaming industry establishing Unreal as the default standard. While great developers have used Unreal to create some amazing titles, I've said in the past that I believe standardizing around Unreal could eventually lead to self-imposed issues in gaming. Also, for me, over time, past Unreal Engine games started to have the same look or signature. At some point in UE4's lifecycle, I could pick out a UE explosion animation from others in a lineup. These are all statements I still stand by, but for Halo Campaign Evolved, I must say the transition to Unreal Engine 5 did work in the game's favor. Unreal has always represented metals very well to my eye, and it's on full display in this game. Once you reach the many Forerunner structures and caves, the metals just glow perfectly. Even Master Chief's armor, which you can change and customize if you have the premium edition of the game, looks amazing here. The attention to detail is definitely a highlight of the game's presentation. You can also tell that the team has worked very hard to make sure physics, a backbone of the Halo sandbox that is not native to Unreal Engine, works perfectly here. You can still stack up grenades next to a Warthog and have it go flying. The Warthog still drives like a raging bull, forcing you to really understand the way to drive it or risk toppling it over. The game still allows you to bring vehicles into locations where they really don't belong. It seems a strong component of Halo's sandbox is preserved, but I will leave it to the Halo sandbox masters, of which I am not one, to take it through its paces and really see where the edges of the system are. For me though, they really nailed the legacy of the gameplay and systems while using Unreal Engine, and that is a feat that must be respected. Another worry with Unreal Engine 5 was the asset streaming problem that plagues open world games. None of that seems to be a problem here, as it played smoothly throughout the bulk of my time with it. I will say though, I wish Xbox would try using id Tech for a future Halo project, because in my opinion, that engine also handles metals better than most, not to mention all of its optimizations. And as well as Halo runs right now, I imagine a Halo game running on id Tech would be a sight to behold. Before we get to the verdict, I do think we have to give the purists their day in court. Halo Combat Evolved is not just a campaign, it is a rhythm. It is the speed of the strafe. It is the distance between you and an elite before the fight becomes dangerous. It is the feel of walking into a quiet Forerunner hallway and knowing the game is about to do something to you. It is the way the pistol, the plasma rifle, the grenades, and the warthog all speak the same gameplay language. So when you add sprint, new weapons, hijacking, suit abilities, 4-player co-op, randomized remix modes, and brand new missions, you're not just adding features. You are touching the DNA of something people have been protecting in their memory for more than 20 years. So I don't think those concerns are invalid. There are moments where Campaign Evolved feels less lonely than the original. There are moments where the extra tools make you feel more powerful than maybe you should. There are moments where Johnson and Chief's banter pushes the tone closer to an 80s action movie than the mysterious, almost haunted sci-fi atmosphere of the original release. If your perfect version of Combat Evolved is a museum piece, preserved exactly as it was, then this is not that. And honestly, I don't think it ever was trying to be that. For me, the question is not whether Campaign Evolved leaves Halo untouched. It doesn't. The question is whether the changes understand what made Halo work in the first place. And more often than not, I think they do. The movement is faster, but the arenas still matter. The weapons are expanded, but the sandbox still asks you to make choices. The scale is bigger, but the ring still feels ancient and unknowable. The tone is more playful in places, but the heart of the campaign is still there. That is the balance this remake has to walk. It has to be brave enough to justify its own existence, but respectful enough that it does not erase the thing that we came back for. And while I know not everyone will agree with me on this, I think Campaign Evolved walks that line better than I expected. There is no PvP. I know that's going to be the headline for some. They will take points off for that, and I think it should have been included as well. But after playing through the game a few times now, I can see the focus here is entirely on the campaign, and it shows. This isn't just a remake. It's Halo Studios owning the legacy of Combat Evolved and making it their own. If PvP had to be scrapped to get the vision out as is, I think it's a fair trade this time. But again, this is coming from a person who has spent more time in Halo's campaigns than its multiplayer. You may feel differently, and that is valid. If you are one of those people who hasn't experienced Halo Combat Evolved before, this is the new definitive way to experience the story. I love the original. I can make a strong argument in favor of some of the decisions they made in the Anniversary Edition. But this version stands head and shoulders above the rest. For me, Halo Campaign Evolved lands at an 8.5 out of 10. I want to thank you for checking out this review. Please go check out the companion article on thegamingcircle.com. So much more to cover, so we'll talk about it on the Gaming Circle podcast, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Saturdays. Otherwise, until the next one, peace.